Hello and welcome to this lecture. In the previous lecture, we had taken a look at the problem statement of a project, and in this lecture, we will be writing a program that solves the problem. I hope you have given an attempt at solving the problem, and if you have been able to get successful output, then congratulations. But if you haven't been able to get the right output, then don't worry, we will be solving it step by step in this lecture. But if you have not given an attempt, I would suggest that you pause this video, go ahead, test your skills, and then come right back. Alright, so let's get started by opening a text editor. So the one which I use is Atom, which I open up by hitting a command space on my Mac and entering Atom. I have split our problem statement into points and we will be solving them one by one. The first point says, read the names and marks of at least 3 students. The next point is, rank the top 3 students with highest marks. The next one is, give cash rewards, $500 for first rank, $300 for second rank, and $100 for third rank. And it should also be noted that the value of the cash cannot be modified. And finally, we need to appreciate students who have secured 950 marks and above. So what we will be doing is to write individual functions for each of these points and solve them, which will eventually give a solution to our problem. So let's first save this file. Let me call it as rankstudents.py. Make sure you're ending it with a .py to identify your file as a Python file. So let's first write function skeletons for all the points. Now what do I mean by a function skeleton? It means a function definition without the body of a function. All you do is write the function name and that's it. So to write the name of my first function, let me call it read student details. And then we enter a keyword called pass, which means do nothing. So this statement does nothing. And the next function which we have is to rank the top 3 students with highest marks. So let me call it rank students. And the next function which we have is to give away cash rewards. So let me call my function as reward students. And the final function which I will have is to appreciate students who has secured 950 marks and above. So let me call it appreciate students. Alright, so we now have all our function skeleton ready. All we have to do now is to write code in each of these functions and call them appropriately. So to start with, let's go ahead and call our first function, which is to read the student details. So to call the function, all I do is enter the function name with a pair of parentheses. And now that the function control is being passed on to this section, I have to enter the code of my function or the body of my function. So what this should do is to read the student details. So for that, the requirements we need to have is the number of students in your class and the names and marks of each student. So first let's have a variable that will accept the number of students in your class. So number of students, and that will be an input from the user, so which will be typecasted to an integer since it is an integer number. So int and input, and let's make sure we are giving a prompt to the user. Let's say enter the number of students. Now that we have the number of students, next what we should do is to run a loop and enter the names and marks of students. So let me go ahead and create a for loop that does that. So let me call it for student in range 0 to number of students. This will make sure that my loop runs for as many times as mentioned in the number of students variable. And what I will do is enter the name and marks of student. So let me give a prompt to the user telling enter the name of the student. And then input will make sure that the name is being taken in string. The next would be to enter the marks. Now since marks is an integer, we need to typecast it to integer and then take the input, or rather take the input and then typecast it. So now that we have the name and marks of one student, we need to have a mechanism in which we can store this. So what I will be doing is to create a dictionary in which my key will be the name of the student and the value of the dictionary would be the marks associated to that student. So let me first create an empty dictionary. Let me call it student record. Now that I have the name and marks of a student, what I have to do is to add this record to that dictionary. So that would be student record and mention the key of the dictionary, which is name, and the value would be the marks. So what you have done now is to take the name and marks from the user and assign it to a dictionary which holds a record of name and marks of students. So for example, if you have a record, say you have a record of 4 students, let's call it student 1, let's say it's John, has marks of 600. Then we have another student, Ben, with marks 800. Then we have David with 950. And finally we have Mark with 980. So this is what your dictionary would look like at the end of your loop. So now that we have our student record, the next thing that we should do is to rank these students. Let's go ahead and call our next function, which is to rank students. Now in our function rank students, we need the student data which is being held in this variable student record. Now the variable student record can be accessed only within the function read student details and cannot be accessed outside of that function. So in order to access it outside that function, we first need to return that dictionary. So let me go ahead and return the student record dictionary. And when you return something from a function, you need to have a variable to accept it. So let me say student record equal to read student details. So at the end of this function, my student record dictionary would contain the record of all the students and their marks. So now that I have the student record, I need to pass that record to my rank students function. So in order to pass that, I enter it in parentheses and I accept it in my function definition. Alright, so in our function rank students, we now have the student record. All that we have to do now is to rank these students. So how do we rank these students? Let's take a look at the example which we have. So in order to rank this, what I can do is to take the value of each key and find the maximum value which has, that would be rank 1, and the next value lower to that would be rank 2, and so on. One easier way to do it is to sort this dictionary in descending order, so that the first 3 key value pairs would have the names and marks of your top 3 students. So my first key value would have Mark and 980 as the marks, the second would be David and 950, and third would be Ben and 800. But there is a problem. Dictionaries are unordered collections, which means they are not in any particular order, and neither can you sort a dictionary. So what is the solution that we have? Well, when you're confused and you don't know the solution to a problem, go ahead and do a Google search. Let me open my web browser. The one which I use is Google Chrome, and log on to google.com, and in the search bar of Google, enter the problem that you're facing. So the problem which we are facing is to sort a dictionary in Python by value. So enter that, sort Python dictionary by value. So probably the first answer would be from Stack Overflow, which is a beautiful forum in which you will get a lot of help from other developers. So there is a user who has posted this problem, and right underneath it you will have a solution. So right on top would be the solution with the maximum number of votes. At the time of recording this video, the solution has 2623 votes, and the green tick mark says that the user who had posted this question has found this reply as helpful. So what I would suggest you do is don't just copy paste the code which is there on Stack Overflow. You will not be having much of a learning if you do that. Go through the code, understand what it does, and then go to your program and implement it. So let's see what this solution says. It is not possible to sort a dictionary only to get a representation of a dictionary that is sorted. Dictionaries are inherently orderless, but other types such as lists and tuples are not. So you need a sorted representation, which will be a list, probably a list of tuples. So what he says here is, you need to convert your dictionary into a list so that you can then sort the list and use it in your program. So what he will be doing here is to convert your dictionary into a list of tuples. Let's see how he does that. So he imports a library called operator. So you have a lot of libraries in Python, and in order to import one, what you need to do is use the import keyword and then enter the name of the library. So this is his dictionary, and then what he is doing in the next statement is creating another variable called sorted x, which will be a sorted list of tuples of his dictionary x. So what happens in this function is he calls a sorted function which will sort, and x.items would convert the dictionary x into a list of tuples, and the key value which he specifies is the value of the dictionary. And to make sure that the key is the value of the dictionary, he uses the item getter from the library operator and passes the index 1. So the index 1 means to say that it is the value of the dictionary which you are using as the key. So let's go ahead and implement this in our program. So let's first import the operator. And then now I will be creating one more variable which will be a list of tuples, and let me call it sorted student record. And here what we do is call the sorted function, and within that we will be converting our dictionary into a list of tuples. So the name of our dictionary is student record. And to convert it into a list of tuples, we call .items function, and then the key which we will be using would be the value of the dictionary, which will be operator.itemGetter, and set it as the value of the dictionary. So now let's see the contents of our sorted student record. In order to do that, I'll just print sorted student record. So let's now save our program and execute it to see how far we have arrived at our output. So let me save it, and to execute it I open terminal on my Mac, and if you're on Linux you can use terminal, but if you're on Windows you should probably be using either command prompt or PowerShell. So on terminal I need to enter Python 3 and then enter the path to my file, which is in desktop, and the name of my file is rankstudents.py. So we will be getting a lot of syntax errors as we progress through our problem. Let's see what that is. So what it says here is read students details is not defined. So what does that say? So the name of my function which I used is read student details, but the name of the function which I called was read students details. So let me just change it to read student details and save it once again and open it in my terminal. So on executing it one more time, yes, this time it went through. So let me enter the number of students as 4, and let me take our inputs. Name of the student is John. The marks of John is 600. Next I enter the name Ben. Ben's marks are 800. Then I enter the name David. David's marks are 950. Then I enter the name Mark, and the marks of Mark are 980. So as you can see, it has been sorted, but in ascending order. It has been sorted as 600, 800, 950 and 980, but we need it the other way around. We need it in descending order with the highest marks coming at the beginning of our list. So in order to do that, what we need to do is at the end of your sorted function, have another parameter called reverse and assign it with the value true. So now when you save it and execute it one more time, let me just clear this output. Now I'm executing it one more time. So the number of students are 4. The name of the student John with marks 600. The name of the student Ben with marks 800. The name of the student David with marks 950. And finally the name of the student Mark with the marks 980. So now when you see the output, it has been sorted in descending order with 980 coming first, which is the marks scored by Mark. So let's now go back to our program and rank the first 3 students. So this is what our sorted list now looks like. And then to rank the first 3 students, we will be making use of some print statements. So print, so I'm giving a placeholder which will be replaced by a name. So let me just call it Mark has secured first rank, scoring 980 marks. So now let me go ahead and fill those placeholders with string formatting. So it is dot format and Mark is in my sorted student record. And since it is my first record, it will have the index value 0. And then since Mark is my first value in my first record, it will have the index value 0 as well. So 0 would mean the first record, and the second 0 would mean the first value in that record, which is the name Mark. So this placeholder stands for Mark, and for the next placeholder, I need the mark secured by Mark, which will be so this is again the first record, but this time since it is the marks, it will have the index value of 1. And similarly, we need to write print statements for the second and third ranks. So secured second rank scoring marks dot format sorted student record. This time it is the second record and the name has the index value 0. And then for the second record, marks has the index value of 1. And finally, let's go ahead and enter our third record. Third record has the index value 0, the name is at the index position 0 and marks at the index position 1. For the third record, the index value is 2. So now let's save this program, go back to our terminal and execute it. So let me clear the screen. Let me now execute it. So the number of students are 4. John has 600, Ben with the marks 800, David with the marks 950, and finally Mark with the marks 980. So there we have our output. Mark has secured first rank scoring 980, followed by David with 950, and then Ben with 800 having scored third rank. So in this lecture we have arrived at a solution to 2 functions. In the next lecture we will be solving the other 2 functions, which is to reward students and appreciate students. I'll see you there. Thank you.